Is disorganized attachment style just flip-flopping between anxiety and avoidance? Individuals that have disorganized attachment, also sometimes called fearful avoidance, I refer to them as spice of lifers. While they may outwardly demonstrate both anxious and avoidant behaviors or tendencies, the source of those behaviors is qualitatively different. And it's based on this concept of optimal proximity. So an attachment style is usually assessed and determined by the frequency and the intensity of certain nuanced thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And those thoughts, feelings, and behaviors either serve to increase the emotional and physical distance between you and a partner or reduce it. So this distance or this proximity is determined based on what some unconscious part of you, including your nervous system and your survival brain, has decided is the safest place to be in order to get your attachment needs met, right? So maybe an anxious person feels like this is the safest place to be. Maybe an avoidant person feels like this is the safest place to be. So you might say, let's say Anne feels safest standing like 4 steps away from her partner, Jerry. But Jerry feels safest standing 6 steps away, right? Now, because the safest proximity for Anne is smaller than it is for Jerry, Anne is going to feel like she's always moving 2 steps forward, and Jerry's going to feel like he's always moving 2 steps back because Anne is trying to close the gap, right? And because she's trying to close it, we consider her an anxious open heart because she feels this compulsion to move towards, to reach out, to cling, right? And because Jerry's always seems to be moving back, withdrawing, trying to stretch the gap, we call him avoidant because there's this moving backward or away process going on. But the point I want to make is this is all relevant because let's say Anne and Jerry break up and now Anne meets Tim and Tim's proximity is 3 steps away. Well, now Anne finds herself backing up. And so when Tim tries to get closer, Anne keeps moving away. Well, now Anne is worried. Does that mean that I've become avoidant? Or am I disorganized now because I seem to be flip-flopping? Well, not really, because underneath what we might be observing in the movement, Anne's proximity is still the same. The proximity is still the same. She likes 4 steps away. It's the conditions. Tim now, who represents the conditions have changed. So this might give you the illusion that your attachment style changes based on a partner's attachment style. But what's really happening is you're just being polarized by an optimal proximity negotiation. Anne's proximity is the same. She's moving towards or she's backing up to retain the same amount of distance. What's changed? Now it's Tim. Now it's Tom. It's the conditions. Now, for individuals that have disorganized attachment, who I like to call spice of lifers, because I believe that with great struggle comes great calling, that safe proximity is never really fully established. So for instance, let's say if Anne, instead of being anxious, Anne is disorganized. And so maybe 4 steps feels safe today, but 2 steps feels safer tomorrow. Maybe 6 steps feels safer next week, followed by 3 steps after that. And in a romantic partner who also has insecure attachment, that polarization, right? So one day, next day, this day. So now this person is bouncing back and forth, trying to maintain their safe proximity by responding to Anne's inconsistency. So now the relationship feels chaotic, extreme, unpredictable, right? And it's going to become addictive because when you have intermittent intervals of connection and separation, you're creating the same pattern that creates addiction to things like gambling and drugs. And so it acts in the same parts of the brain and starts to stimulate some of those naturally addictive chemicals like dopamine and adrenaline. And so now what happens is pretty soon everybody's stepping on each other's toes and we're all dancing off beat and we're winding up with bruised feet. So in this case, it's because there's no consistent safe proximity to be found for Anne, who now represents our fearful avoidant spice of lifer, right? And whether it's clinging or it's pulling away, the nervous system always feels like it's in a state of hypervigilance, and it will go until it reaches that point of being sort of having a blown circuit, and then it freezes and it drops into the dorsal, and now we have dissociation, numbing out, depersonalization, feeling out of body experiences, losing memory, lack of memory, right? Things like that, struggling with cognition, is executive functioning. sudden mood swings or unclear triggers, right? Feeling as though parts of ourselves have become fragmented. So this is what we call, there's normal dissociation like daydreaming and fantasizing, and then there's dysfunctional dissociation, which is what I just described. And this can exacerbate the struggles that are faced by individuals that have disorganized, fearful, avoidant attachment. And it makes it challenging for them to develop more stable relationships, but it is not impossible. Doesn't mean they can't. Doesn't mean they can't establish a safe proximity. It just means that they haven't to this point. But now that they know, that means they have the option and the choice to access the resources that they require, because the brain and the body is malleable. It can be rewired. So I hope that helps. One thing I would add to this, though, if you think that this might apply to you, it certainly did to me. Historically, I have been more disorganized. The good news is that research suggests that individuals who have a looser sense of self initially are more likely to evolve their attachment style over time. And that's because of the flexibility that exists in their personalities, which means that they may be more flexible to change. And that's why I say, with great struggle comes great calling, because we might say our spice of lifers have the greatest calling of us all. I hope that's helpful and that answers that question. Also, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week and I wouldn't want you to miss out.